you a home grower looking for a little bit of help? Are you ready to learn as much as you can about your favorite hobby? The Homegrown Helpers brings you informative interviews from experienced growers that have taken the next steps in their journey and decided to help you grow top quality cannabis all in your home. Now welcome in our host, Rob Smith, along with this week's Homegrown Helper. All right, listeners, are you ready for this week's grow tips and tricks from another Homegrown Helper? All right, me too. Today on the show, we have David Kurth from U-Bud Cannabis Services. David runs a very unique business model in Canada where it's legal for most citizens to grow 4 plants at their home. So David has taken his growing knowledge from years of being a medical grower and simply figured out a unique business model where he can help people learn how to grow cannabis at home without too much work on their part. So David pretty much sets you up with all the equipment, the donated seeds, just to be clear on that, and the general know-how to take care of your plants, and then provides you the ability on the back end to either purchase the equipment or say, thanks, I've grown cannabis once now, I think I'm all set. So along with learning about David's business model, we also hear what David has to think about the questions that we ask all of our guests here on the Homegrown Helpers. So we also have to thank our mygrowpass.com partners. We have Greencraft Distribution helping us out for the show, along with Dealzer.com. So you can learn more about those, about smack dab right in the middle of the episode. So you heard on the last episode that we are getting down on our content. We don't really have many guests that are coming in. I feel like we have done a pretty good job at trying to source new ones, but they just can't be found. So if you know anybody that is starting a business helping other people learn how to grow cannabis at home, I would really appreciate the introduction and allow me to take it from there. This has been an awful lot of fun for me, and I'd really hate to see this project dwindle down so quickly. But without more guests, it's hard to create new content of this nature. So we'll figure out the next step for us here at the Homegrown Helpers and, Growcast in general. Growcast isn't going away. I don't want to give you that impression. But, maybe the Homegrown Helpers will be a seasonal thing once we can source some new guests. More states come online, more people are growing at home, so maybe there's a larger market for this. So if you are in the market for your own homegrown helper, we do have quite a range of guests we've already featured, maybe like 25 or so people that are helping home growers like yourself learn and perfect and continue to get better at the skills that it takes to grow great cannabis at home. So hit me up, Rob at thehomegrownhelpers.com, or find me on Instagram. You can DM me there, and we'll make an introduction that should suit you both pretty well. So last thing that I have to ask before I kick it over to the episode is, ratings and reviews, help us reach more new growers with the content that we are providing, and hopefully we can continue to do this for you guys. So thanks so much. Let's get on with the interview with David Kurth from U-Bud Cannabis Services. All right, and welcome to the show, David. Can you kick us off with the softball of your name, the company that you operate, and where you're located at?
Oh, you bet. So my name is David Kurth. I'm the president and CEO and founder of U-Bud Cannabis Services. It's spelled U-Bud Cannabis Services. We're a federally incorporated company up here in just not far from Toronto, Canada. So we're up in the Niagara Peninsula area, and we've only been around for just over a year.
Awesome. Congratulations. Can you tell us how long you've been growing cannabis and what made you take this leap and start helping other people learn how to grow?
Yeah, no problem. In terms of growing cannabis, and that's a bit of a tricky question because we've only been legal here since October of 2018. So in terms of how we started growing to start U-Bud is we started working with medical folks with medical licenses with capacity on their license. So we've been doing that for about a year and a half in terms of test grows. Prior to that, I may have a small history of outdoor growing, but we won't dig too much into that as that's part of the legacy market.
So you have a very interesting business model. Why don't you explain exactly what U-Bud is all about and how you help out growers out there?
No problem. So our business is a little different than other consulting businesses. We're full service. And we're really focused on helping new growers or growers that are looking for an easier way to legally, safely, funnily is what we like to say, grow your 4 plants at home. So literally, we come in once you book a grow with us. We show up with all of the equipment, the process, and we even donate the seeds to get you started. And throughout the process, typically we're touching base about once every week just to make sure things are on track. It's actually very easy now with the technology of smartphones and such, sending pictures back and forth. And we just make sure that you're on track and following process, and we guarantee success of the grow. So at the end of the grow, you can either choose to renew with us, in which case we'll come back and reset, clean everything up, change out any pieces that need to be changed out, or buy out the equipment, or if you choose, we can come and tear everything out, and you're just left with your bud.
So guaranteed success, that must mean that you are fairly involved throughout the process. How often do you typically visit a grow in order to guarantee that success rate?
Yeah, and typically what we've done is we've developed a process that's easy, anyone can do it, and we keep an eye on it remotely. So typically we're there right at the beginning, and as long as there's no trouble brewing throughout the grow, we don't tend to come in too much in the middle. Typically we find there might be 1 or 2 visits in the middle, and that's about it. But we find our people are actually doing fairly well, and we've had very few grows where we've had challenges that have required us to go in more than a couple times.
Awesome. Sounds great. So why don't you tell me about your current grow setup, the size of the space, the type of grow medium, lights, number of plants that you're growing. I assume that answer is 4. But why don't you get into some details and share with us your current grow setup?
Yeah, not a problem. So in terms of the main grow tent, so we're actually using a 4x4 grow tent. We're about just over 6.5 feet tall. Within that grow tent, we're using a bit of an oversized carbon filter and exhaust fan. Just being we're installing these in people's homes. It's not necessarily a designated grow room. We have them in living rooms, kitchens, bedrooms, bathrooms. We've got them literally everywhere in people's homes. So we do go a little overkill on the carbon filter. In terms of lighting, we've got a couple different lights we're using right now. So, and keep in mind, when we spec equipment, our criteria is a little different. We want to be able to safely plug into just about any outlet on a 10 amp breaker. So that doesn't mean we can be, running 1,000 watts lights in these grows. So what we're using is either a 315 watt ceramic metal halide, or we're using LED lights. So on the LED lights, we spent a lot of time speccing, making sure they were approved for the Canadian market. We went with an LED light without any moving parts, and we made sure that it's full spectrum and we don't lose any of that spectrum in the short term. And then we have a couple different grows that we offer in terms of a boosted grow where we double up on those LED lights.
Okay.
Beyond that, we've got a couple monkey fans or oscillating fans within the tent. Of course, we've got your thermometer and your humidity. We've got gauges in there for that. And in terms of where we start the plants, when we're starting from seed, we start from basically a mini LED greenhouse. A lot of our customers like to see that process up close and personal on their kitchen counter.
So you start the plants right there and then kind of move them in, or do you bring plants from like a vegetative space of your own?
Right now, we're basically providing donated seeds.
Okay.
So we are germinating right with the customer. Wow. We are actually playing with. I'm a medical license holder.
Yep.
We're playing around with the idea in terms of providing clones. Early on in our testing process, we shied away from that just due to the quality of the clones that we were able to get donated. Mm-hmm. But if we're producing our own, then we're a lot more comfortable with what we're putting out there. In early testing, we ran into a few issues with clones that came from sources that we're kind of predisposed to some issues.
That does tend to happen in a commercial type application. We see a lot of that even down here in the States.
Absolutely.
Bringing in dirty clones to a new client's situation probably isn't the best situation for you guys, and kind of sets them back or even turns them off from the whole grow process to begin with, doesn't it?
And we've been very lucky in terms of we haven't, the only issues with that we have is within a couple test grows prior to any of our paying customers.
Cool.
So it's, luckily we learned our lessons early on that one, and now we're just going back and revisiting, trying to figure out a better way to provide the clones to our customers without those issues and of course legally within the Canadian market.
So what are the tips that you give to a brand new client? You've set up their grow. What are the things that you advise them to look at when it comes to the overall health of the plant? Just, maybe they need to see these things to make sure things are going well, or, hey, call us if something like this happens. What are those things to look after?
Yeah. And for us, it's, our growers are typically new growers. People that have never grown before, or there's we actually have a growing senior customer base, so that people that may have grown, let's say, 40 years ago and are now just getting back into it again. So for that, what we find is, watching temperature, humidity, and most importantly, kind of the moisture in the soil. And beyond that, it's just general observations on plant health. When we come in and we set up a tent, we're already testing pH and dealing with that at the time of installation. So typically it's more just daily checks on the plants to observationally make sure we're not running into any challenges. Because most of the challenges you run into, if you catch them early enough, they're quite easily dealt with.
Sure. What would be those things that you ask them to just like, hey, look in your tent every day and look at A, B, and C?
Typically, when they're looking into the plants, we're looking at the, say, for example, color of the leaves. We're looking for any blemishes and challenges that might be a sign of bugs or mold or any other pieces. We're looking for any changes maybe in the top of the dirt and any anomalies. If one plant is starting to look different than the others, or leaves, hanging down, not looking like it's a healthy plant. We also have a feedback loop in terms of sharing pictures back and forth, and we're even actually have a few grows with cameras right in them right now where customers allow us, and that makes it much easier to kind of spot problems before they become real problems.
We're really big here at the Homegrown Helpers about that daily check-in, daily journaling. I think you take the pain points out of that for the customers, since they don't really have to be concerned about the input so much.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you're very much along that line of, knowing what your plant is doing so you can spot the problems earlier and then let us help get that plant back on track, right?
Exactly. It's more about preventing issues than anything else. And in terms of journaling, we do actually provide, right now it is paper-based. We are kind of hoping to move towards an electronic base. Although we have a lot of customers that still like we just provide a clipboard with a calendar and procedure on it. And all we ask them to do is when you water, just jot down when you watered and how much. And if there's anything else that's changed, we just get them to jot it on the calendar. And then if we do run into problems, it's very easy to look back and say, okay, this is likely what we've run into, and this is how we'll solve it.
So what type of soil are you providing them? I assume it's an all-in-one soil, so they don't have to really mix the nutrients up at all?
Yeah, well, we have two different grows in that sense. We do still offer a kind of a synthetic nutrient grow, okay, in which case we're starting with like an HP soil. But most of our grows are actually shifting, and our customers are really enjoying, and personally, it's the only thing I grow in, is super soil. So instead of using, with our synthetic grows, we were only using a 2.5 gallon pot. And then, of course, synthetic fertilizers with our super soil grows. And we're using a partner out of just north of Toronto called Stepwell Super Soil. And with that, we use a 7 gallon pot. And the only other thing we add from there is essential microbes.
Awesome.
And in terms of the schedule, the customers has that schedule and knows exactly what to do. They're trained on how to do it.
Great. That's what it's all about. We find a lot more people are going to the super soil, all-in-one soil type of setup, and more people are getting away from the synthetic bottle nutrients.
Yeah, and I see in terms of the market, I think it's all going to go away from synthetic nutrients. From our perspective, we look at our costs; they're almost identical. But then you look at the end product, and for my own personal consumption, I would never use anything except for stuff grown in organic super soil.
Great, great. So, David, in your opinion, and maybe this doesn't really, isn't super applicable to your types of setups, because I imagine your 4 plants and a 7-gallon pods each kind of fill up that 4x4 space pretty well.
Yeah.
But if you're coaching a future grower, what is the single highest leverage move a grower can do in order to increase yield off of those limited plant counts?
And you're absolutely right. It's a little different in our world. Right now, there's very little the customer can do. We try and create a process where there's very little margin for error. So in terms of the early growers, the best things they can do is make sure they're not over and under watering are kind of the easy solutions. And of course, with the synthetic grow, make sure you're mixing things correctly. What we do in terms of being able to boost the grow for our customers is we boost the lighting. So if they want to start playing around and boosting lighting after their first grow, we'll basically double up on the LEDs, and we're able to now increase the volume and yield.
Great.
Yeah.
Do you give them any plant training, topping techniques to employ as they're, going through the veg stage with their plants?
We're just kind of playing around with it. So we played with a few of our customers kind of on the second and third grows where we're, really creating that sea of green. We haven't developed this into a process for everyone yet, but we do kind of work with our customers in terms of topping as we see fit. It's a little different from our perspective. Again, we're growing from seed today, so that ends up means we typically end up with a few different phenome types, and we typically just top to ensure kind of the plants are at the same growing at the same rate and turning into flower or flipping into flower while they're at the same height. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. So, yeah, I could see a benefit of providing clones at that point in time where you can, maybe bring in, a foot tall plant that's been topped once or twice already and kind of take a little bit more work away from the customer and maybe even charge a higher price point because you're providing the plants completely to them.
Exactly, and we're working on getting there. It's a little bit challenging. There's some legal challenges in the Canadian market. So the only way we're dealing with that right now is we're doing things by donation.
Gotcha. Yeah, makes sense. All right, we have to take a quick break to thank our mygrowpass.com partners for the show. First up, we have Dealzer.com. Use code podcast10 at checkout at DEALZER.com and save 10% off your entire order. Or become a member at mygrowpass.com and gain access to a 15% off code that is reserved only for our members. Dealzer.com is a hydroponics superstore with over 20,000 indoor gardening products. If you are looking to grow your own, Dealzer is your one-stop shop for all your product needs, from LED grow lights, grow tents, nutrients, soil, CO2, and so much more. Visit Dealzer Hydroponics at Dealzer.com, DEALZER.com, or visit their Paducah, Kentucky brick-and-mortar store. Use code podcast10 for 10% off your entire order at Dealzer.com, where they also offer free shipping on most products. Thank you to Dealzer.com for being such a great partner. Next up, Greencraft Distribution. Personal friends of mine and great all-around guys. Listeners get 10% off at greencraftdistribution.com using code GROWCAST, but members gain access to a 25% off code for the entire time that they are a member. Greencraft Distribution is a New England-based online hydro store representing several hydroponic brands as well as premium CBD products. Check out greencraftdistribution.com to check out the full line of products from brands like Cushly, Canatai, Stash Logics, and more. You should also check out the multiple lines of quality CBD products sourced from around the country. Use code GROWCAST at greencraftdistribution.com to save 10%. Or become a member at mygrowpass.com for a 25% off discount on all their products. Thanks to Dealzer and Greencraft Distribution for being such great partners for us and our members. So, David, let's talk about integrated pest management in these indoor gardens. What are the steps and the protocols that you're having your new growers go through? What type of preventative maintenance are you instructing them, or are you giving them any items to use to make sure their plants and their gardens stay clean and healthy?
And in terms of pest management, like we're relatively small grows, but yes, you can end up with issues as well. The biggest steps that we do, and we reinforce this kind of in the training, or if we run into issues, we sometimes have to do a little bit of a review. But a lot of this is, don't go out and do your flower bed and mow your lawn and then go and tend to your plants. We find most of the issues that we have with small 4-plant grows that are located in clean environments are typically from things that are introduced to the grow. So it's coming from your pets, it's coming from your clothing, or it's coming from you. So we typically train on very simple solutions. Prevention is the best and easiest way to do it. Is wash your hands, change your clothes, and make sure your cat's not wandering around amongst your plants. And that deals with 95% of the issues. The rest of them, we do use a spray on the leaves as well. So we actually use a essential microbe spray on the leaves. That helps in terms of white powder mildew, as well as it can help with the bugs. If we do run into a bug problem, as long as we catch it early enough, we use very simple solutions: dish soap and a couple drops of dish soap and water in a spray bottle. And that tends to deal with it. If we have anything bigger than that, we'll probably just reset the grow for our customer.
Okay. So the spray that they have isn't anything commercial. It is just some dish soap and some water in a bottle?
Yeah, exactly. So we're just using, a basic organic dish soap and a couple drops of that in a spray bottle of water.
Cool.
And that's if we actually get to the point that there's bugs on the plants. Before that, we are using some preventative spray in terms of essential microbes.
Do you have a name for that spray? We love to reference this type of stuff so people can use it.
Yeah, no, of course. It's from our partners. It's Stepwell Super Soil. It's called EM1.
Stepwell Super Soil. All right. We're just writing that down.
No problem. We're also the distributor for them in the Niagara region as well as Hamilton. So
okay.
It's a really quality product.
Great. Yeah, we will link that up in the show notes. We do have a good amount of listeners up there in Canada, and I'm sure if it's quality product, it'll find its way into the U.S. before too long.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what type of character traits do you love to see in that first training session when you're setting up a new grow and you know that this grower is going to be successful and probably continue to grow their own cannabis beyond you?
And that's a bit of a tough one because, in terms of what we see for early success, it's really all about, being able to follow a process. If they follow the process, if they communicate, with us when we're communicating with them, we have close to 100% success when people start deviating or trying different things in their first grow or two. That's typically when we run into trouble. I'm not sure what you'd list that trait is, but it's around almost being able to follow through on a process and do things consistently. Once you're into your second and third grows, now we can start playing around a little bit, but it's more about kind of limiting the changes you make so you can start to understand what the impact of those changes is. So I guess it's about being disciplined and being able to follow process. Does that sound about right, Rob?
Yeah, totally. You're the first person we've talked to that kind of has this wrapped up in a business model, but we do, there's lots of online resources that can take you through growing, step by step that not necessarily hold your hand as well as you do and provide that full service solution. And people gain confidence a whole lot quicker than maybe they should and try things outside of the box that, I heard Joe had success doing this. Well, Joe's been growing for 15 years and has that ability, and maybe you don't quite yet. So that's a good answer.
We even recommend to some of our customers, turn off your internet. There's a lot of great growers out there. There's a lot of differing opinions, though. So we just suggest to our customers where we don't mind them posting pictures of their plants that they're proud of. But if you're going for advice or you're going for next steps and what you should do with your grow, we recommend you only come to us while you're growing with
That's pretty good advice.
There's a lot of opinions out there.
There's a lot of internet consultants out there that think that they know what they're doing and jump to conclusions without knowing the whole story, for sure.
Yeah, and there's a lot of great growers out there with a lot of great opinions, but we're a little different in the sense that we're trying to find this balance between, success and safety and yield and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons that we started this podcast, and we have another one in the works called Homegrown Journals, was to feature all of the different ways that people can be successful growing.
Yep.
And honestly, I envision us getting to a point where we can either prove or disprove the fact that, hey, maybe there is one right way to cut clones, and maybe there's one right way to dry your flowers.
Yeah.
But, in between, the beginning and the end, there might not be one or two right ways to do any one thing.
Yeah.
We're hoping to feature all of those different ways and allow people to understand that, there are a lot of really good ways to grow really good cannabis.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I agree with you. I think, especially now that we're into a legal market or getting to be more legal market, let's say, you're going to start seeing, I think you're going to see more science behind it. And the science is going to lead you to, the right way to maximize THC or CBD or whatever you're trying to achieve. I think where the differences in growing will come in still at that point will be where you want a different flavor or different smell or there's different things people enjoy, and those things are not necessarily just going to fit into one model for growing.
True story. So, David, we're going to wrap things up here pretty quick, at least for the initial part of our interview. And just a reminder to our audience, we do post this podcast free forever for all of our listeners to enjoy on any podcasting platform. But we do keep our guests around for an additional 5 questions. We get a little more personal, a little more grow advice, and we post those up on our website at thehomegrownhelpers.com. And all you have to do is share your email address with us, and you gain access to all of the bonus content from all of our guests. And you can listen to it right on the website or download it right there. So we're going to wrap things up with David and give him a little break, take a little sip of water, and then we'll get into the bonus questions, and we'll get those posted up for you. And you can find that at thehomegrownhelpers.com/bonus. So, David, do you have any last bits of advice or wisdom to pass along to every home grower that is listening to you right now?
I'd say my advice is probably more for the junior home grower. First piece would be don't cheap out. Buy the right stuff. We're not the cheapest state in town, but we use a proven process with the right equipment to get the job done. So we do have people coming to us, basically calling us after they've made a purchase of, let's say, kind of the low end of the equipment. Now they want to, try and do a U-Bud grow with it. It's just not going to be possible. And, the second piece, which we already kind of mentioned, is, be careful where you get your advice from. So we spoke to a lot of people that have tried to grow before starting this business. And there's a lot of conflicting advice. And if you're a new grower, that can lead to 1, 2, 3 crop failures before you're even successful for the first time. So, pick a process that seems to be right and stick with it.
Great last bits of advice. So we are going to wrap this up. And if you are looking to hire David, how can our audience connect with you and enlist the services of U-Bud?
Best place to go is actually our website, which is u-bud.ca. That's u-bud.ca. And we're also available through all of the usual social media channels. So we're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So you can find us in any of those channels and connect with us there. And if you're in Canada over the next couple months, you can see us at the Ontario Cannabis Festival, which is coming up in Kitchener. And we do also have a display right now in the Hamilton Hemp Collective.
Great. And audience, if you are looking to hire a consultant, to outside of the type of work that David is offering, please reach out to me, Rob, at thehomegrownhelpers.com, and we'll do the work to find the right consultant for you. So thanks to our mygrowpass.com partners of the show, and thanks to David for joining us. And happy growing, audience, and we'll catch you next time.